Hey everyone, Professor Noto here, and I wanted to talk to you guys real quick. Um, so many of you know I'm a diabetic. I've been a diabetic since I'm 10 years old, or rather, I found out that I'm a diabetic when I was 10 years old. I probably had it when I was like 9 years old. And recently, one of the parents had contacted me, letting me know that their son, unfortunately, was diagnosed with diabetes, and they asked if I can speak to the family a little bit because he was a little bit down, the family was a little bit down. And so I wanted to reach out right away and talk to you about my experience as a 10-year-old with diabetes and how that hasn't limited me in my life, really. And I want to talk about three things that really changed things for me when I was 10 years old and kind of was brought this news. Okay. So the first one was the doctor simply saying, your son has diabetes. And so what ended up happening is I got rushed to the hospital. At this point, I was on a stretcher. I just passed out, and then I went home, and my mom and dad took one look at me and were like, we got to bring this kid to the hospital emergency room right away. So I go to the emergency room, and I get stretchered in. I remember like looking at the ceiling and going through these doors and stuff, and I guess they ran some tests on me. And so the doctor comes in, and my dad goes like, tell us what's going on, right? And so the doctor goes, he's a diabetic. And I didn't know what that meant, but I knew it was not good because I'm in a hospital on a stretcher. And also my parents started to cry at that moment. But for me, I felt like this sign of relief. I was almost happy in some way because for about a year, I was in a lot of pain and I didn't really know why. And it wasn't like pain that I felt like I needed to like tell my parents. Like it wasn't like, oh, I hurt my arm, like this is bad, like we need to fix this thing. It was a lot of subtle things. So I was really tired all the time. I'd play hide and seek with my friends and I'd find a spot and I'd just go to sleep because I was like so tired. And that was because my blood sugar was so high. It was causing me to like crash real hard. There were times where I played hockey and my arms would start to shake. I'd get these jitters. I didn't know what that was. I thought I was just fatigued from playing the sport. So I would drink some Gatorade and I'd feel better. And really what was happening was my sugar was crashing low and the Gatorade was bringing it up. There were times where I was at school and I'd have to go to the bathroom like 10 times a day to urinate. And what was happening was I had so much sugar in my body that my body was pushing it out through urine. And that was making my body dehydrated. So I was in a lot of pain. My muscles were in a lot of pain. And so kind of dealing with this for a good year, being at the hospital and hearing the doctor say, oh, your son's a diabetic, that made me feel in a weird way, like kind of happy because although I didn't know what that meant to be a diabetic, I knew that they knew what it meant and the doctors would now be able to kind of help me out. Whereas before I didn't know what was going on and I couldn't get any help, or at least it felt like I couldn't get any help. So that's the first thing. So if you have something going on, one positive to look at is that you actually know what it is you have that's going on. So it sucks that you have it, but at least you know that you have it, and now you can start to treat it or prevent it from getting any worse and make it better, okay? The next thing that helped me out is they brought me to the nutritionist. The nutritionist came in. I was at the hospital for probably 2 weeks, getting better and also learning how to give injections to myself. And so the nutritionist comes up to me and she goes, does anyone else in your family have diabetes? Ever hear about this before? And I was like, no. And she said, so you picked the lucky number out of the hat. And I was like, what? And she said, yeah, like, this is what you got. Like, you have it. Like, you didn't do anything to get it. You just have it. Like, you're not overweight or anything like that. She said, some of these things happen, they don't really have an explanation for. So do you ever hear of arthritis? Like old people, they get it, they can't move their fingers, they get locked in and stuff. I said, yeah, I heard of that. She said, I just spoke to someone in the last room who they're 5 years old and they have it. She's like, that doesn't make sense, right? For a 5-year-old to have arthritis? And I said, no, it doesn't. And she said, yeah, it's like none of it makes sense. But that's what it is. She says, everyone has something. You have this. He has arthritis. Some other people, they have blurry vision. They can't see. Some people have joint pains. They can't move their shoulders. It locks in on them. She goes, everyone has something that they're dealing with in their life. You just happen to have this. You probably don't notice that everyone has something because everyone is always so scared to talk about stuff that they have. But really, everyone has something. That's why I'm here. That's why we have our jobs here at the hospital. Everyone has something. This is what you have. So don't waste any time getting angry, asking questions like, why me? How come this happened to me? Why doesn't it happen to someone else? She said there's no point in asking those questions. It's like trying to chase cats. You're never going to catch them. Even if you caught them, it'd be hard to hold on to. So don't go around trying to chase those answers down. It doesn't make any sense. This is what you have, and this is how you need to live your life going forward if you want to be happy and you need to be healthy. So first thing that changed my life was the doctors letting me know what I have, diabetes. The second thing was being told and understanding and agreeing that everyone has something in their lives that's a challenge. This just happens to be my challenge, and now we need to plan ahead. Okay, so the third thing that really changed my life in this time, and I'm 10 years old at this time, so it's a lot for me. The third thing was my mom used to cut hair in the neighborhood for different people as like a side job. And so one of her clients was this old woman. She was like, not realistically, she was like 95. And she was blind, but really sweet woman. And so I would go to this woman's house in order to just be there while my mom cut her hair. And so my mom was inside, and it was time for me to take my injection. And so as a diabetic, you know, for non-diabetics, right, every time you eat, your body gives you a little bit of insulin, right? My body doesn't produce insulin. That means I have to manually inject insulin into my body every time I eat. That means if I ate 10 times that day, whether it be a snack or a meal, that would be 10 injections right there, right? Now, truth be told is I actually have 2 different types of insulin. So some of those injections have to happen twice per meal. So I might go through 10 or 12 injections a day, depending on how many times I ate. That's a lot, and it hurts. It hurts every time. And so I was at the time scared about giving myself injections. It was like new to me. Like imagine, you know, you bring your son or your daughter to a doctor and they don't want to get injections. Imagine they have to give it to themselves at that age, right? So it wasn't easy. And so the woman looked at me, and she's blind, but she looked in my direction, and she must have known that something was up. She couldn't see it, but she must have known. And she said, James, you can take your medicine and it's going to hurt for like 5 seconds, but you're going to feel good for the rest of your day. Or you can not take it because you're scared, and then for the rest of the day you can suffer. So what do you want to do? And I was like, yeah, I should probably take my insulin. And I did. And then she said, James, you can have one of those cookies that's on the table and you'll really enjoy it for like 5 minutes, but for the rest of the day, you're going to suffer because you had all that sugar that you shouldn't have had. Or you can not eat the cookies and you can be angry and pissed about it for the next couple of minutes, but you'll feel really good for the rest of the day because you avoided that sugar that you probably shouldn't be eating, right? And I was like, man, this lady's smart. And so I took that into my life. Like, I don't want to always take my insulin. Sometimes it's awkward. If I'm at a sporting event, there's 15,000 people around. It can be awkward to pull out a syringe and give yourself insulin. It's awkward if you're, you know, I'm on the bus and there's delays and now I need to take my insulin and I have to take an insulin shot on the bus. That's really awkward. But I'd rather deal with the awkwardness of that for a couple of minutes, a couple of seconds, than be in pain for the next 10 hours, right? I would rather, like yesterday, Easter, you know, there's all these cakes and desserts out. Sugar-free cookies taste terrible. Taste awful. I'd rather not eat the cake that's out there and feel good for the rest of the day than have a piece of that cake and then my body is like, it'll be in pain if I eat that. And sometimes I mess up and I choose the wrong thing and I'm like, man, I really want peace, and I have a piece and I regret it always, every time, always. But really, that life lesson that woman gave me was priceless. Like, do the thing that you don't want to do for 2 seconds so that you can succeed for the rest of the day. It doesn't just apply to my diabetes. It applies to everything. So just to recap the three things that have helped me out that I learned as a 10-year-old, living with an illness or living with diabetes is one, I'm happy that I know that I have diabetes. I'm not happy that I have it, but I have it, and I'm happy that I know I have it, so that way I can prepare for it. Two, what was two? Oh yeah. So the second one is make right decisions, right? Do the right thing. Don't stray from the things that you know are not going to be good for you physically, right? And then the third thing, the second thing actually, but the third thing is like everyone's got something. Everyone's got something. Everyone's got something. So, in my group of friends as a kid, it was like I was the kid that had diabetes. Someone else was the kid who's never met his dad before. Someone else never met their mom before. Someone else was with their grandparents. Someone else is on a food stamp. Someone else is this. Someone else has to bunk bed with their brother and their sister until they're 20 years old. Everyone has something, and I just happen to have this, so I need to live with this. So those are the three things. Living with diabetes as a 10-year-old that were able to kind of help me out a lot. Now, diabetes has not stopped me from doing anything in my life. I'm a second-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm a first-degree black belt in Shotokan Karate. I train in kickboxing that includes sparring. I've played hockey growing up, and I haven't had anyone, anything regarding to diabetes stop me from doing all of that stuff, okay? Now, there have been people that have tried to stop me from doing that stuff and labeled it because you can't do that because you're a diabetic. All that stuff is a bunch of nonsense. Those people that tell me that I can't do that stuff because I'm a diabetic are the same people that would tell me I can't do that stuff because today it's snowing and you can't go outside today because it's snowing. You might catch a cold. If you get cold, you get sick, then you can't go to work. You can't do karate that way. Those people will say that too. So I take my advice from sources that I feel like I can trust, and I am not. I don't aggressively decline other people's information. I listen to it. But I make educated decisions for myself on what I'm going to do with my life. In other words, if I go to a doctor and the doctor is overweight and he's telling me not to exercise, that's probably not going to be someone that I listen to about exercise. But if I go to a doctor and he's physically fit and he looks like he's a runner or a swimmer and he tells me you need to lay off for a couple of days to rest up your shoulder or something like that, then maybe that is someone that I would look at. Okay. So that would be the other thing. It's like make smart choices for yourself. Okay. So if you got something going on, any type of illness, like be educated. Like yes, it's good to read these books and stuff, but habits, like what's a good habit and what's a bad habit, right? Like even if I wasn't a diabetic, like eating cake is probably not a good habit to have, right? Making not sleeping is not a good habit to have. Even if I wasn't a diabetic, that would still not be good for me. If you have any questions, comment below. If you have any questions that you don't feel comfortable commenting below, then shoot me a message, shoot me a text, give me a call. I'd be happy to kind of go over any of this stuff with you or your son or your daughter or whoever in the family. Jessica, everything happens for a reason. Amen. Everything does happen for a reason. Amen. And in a weird way, being a diabetic has really given me as a kid a sense of discipline and behavior-wise, like when you're in a hospital as a 10-year-old for 2 weeks and you can't leave until you give yourself injections and learn how to do that, and then you're able to go to school and not be around your parents for 9 hours and then come home and your parents are working and you're able to take care of yourself. I was not the kid that had a disaster room, and I think there's a little bit of a connection between the two. And I never miss an opportunity to dance because I know how fast things can change. and I might not always have that chance to do so. And I'm always quick to just jump on something new, because again, I know how fast things can change and life can change. So I try to take advantage of all those possibilities and all those opportunities. And I don't know if I would react the same way if I didn't get hit hard as a 10-year-old with this news and this lifestyle change. Now, I'm not saying I'm happy that I got this thing because now I've learned all this stuff. But I am saying I got this thing and it did shape me into who I am partially. So maybe this will help you out in some way too. Again, if you have any questions, leave a comment below. I'd be happy to open up and speak to your children if you ever need me to support them a little bit. Sometimes the kids hearing the same exact thing that you tell them, but from someone different, just holds different weight. I'm sure there's someone in your life that's the same thing. Like, you hear it from your parents, you don't want to hear it, but someone else says it, and it just has a whole new different meaning for whatever reason. So I'm more than happy to speak to the kids if you want me to. Okay. All right. Love you guys. Bye.